Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's lovely to be here with you this afternoon, although I think I'm a bit premature and just coming out in my summer shirt. But the reason I'm here is that we're going to do a little painting demonstration to the great scorn of the local artists. I don't want your money. I want to tell you about something which is absolutely free. And what I'm going to talk about is something which everyone's looking for, but not everyone finds. And when they find it, they don't always know what they're looking at. So let's have a look at... Now, you have to be really intelligent. That's why I've come down to Bath this afternoon, because I believe there are many intelligent people here in Bath. And what we're going to do is you have to watch what I don't paint, all right? Now, what lots of people are looking for is change. Now, I'm not going to give you any change. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about a change in our lives. And, you know, the problem is that we've got lots of people, from politicians down, or is it politicians up, who are talking about change, but really, what are we getting? And I want to illustrate that by a little portrait here. Now, 25 years ago on this street, I used to preach and do this same portrait, and I used to invite members of the public if they'd like to be painted. But as this used to start some rather unseemly scuffles, today I'm just going to ask you to imagine that I am doing a masterpiece, all right? Now, the reason I'm talking about a masterpiece is that you and I are masterpieces. We are made in the image of God. And because we're made in the image of God, you're a masterpiece. You know, you are unique. Don't you know that's what your mother always told you? You said, thank God you're the only one. Well, it's not just that, but there's something else. You know, I'm going to paint a human face. Now, with the years, we learn to lie with our faces. You know, we're very good. Me. And our faces don't show anything. But I just want to put a typical human face here. Now, the delicate nose, yeah, and the mouth, the eyes. Oh, very thick eyebrows, you know. Have to have them plucked. Now, we all know that basically, these days, how you appear is something which really moves money, doesn't it? You know, if you haven't got the right body, then you chop a bit off there, you stick a bit on there, you fill it out there, and that is something which people think is change. But there are other people who say, well, no, I know that real change only happens on the inside of a person. But to illustrate why it never usually happens on the inside to us, I want to do something more to my picture right now. So are you waiting? This is a really artistic touch that I'm going to put on my painting. That is known internationally as le splodge, right? You know, for the cultural people, it's a splodge. It's a stain. And you know, the reason why change doesn't usually happen in our lives is that there are stains on our life which we can't get off. The other day I went off to the dentist, and for a modicum price of about 100 euros he poked around in my mouth and scraped and polished, and eventually said I got most of the stains off, but you're so old, you know, I mean, there's not a lot you can do about some of your teeth. But the fact is, there are stains on the inside of our lives which we've produced and which we can't get rid of. And you know, I want to say that the reason why we can't get rid of them, I'm going to paint it up here, this is very analytical, is because we all suffer from eye disease. Now, eye disease is that I want to do this, I want to do that, I don't care if God says that, because this is the way I'm going to do it. And, you know, that is eye disease. Now, what does an artist do if he's got a big stain on the middle of his canvas? Now, I know that you're all into art restoration, so you can flog cheap antiques to the tourists here. But what I'm going to show you is something really good, OK? Now, you don't try this at home unless you've got a non-masterpiece, all right? OK. There we go. Ah. Yay. And you say, oh, isn't that pretty? Yeah, well, whether it is or not, I just want to explain that some of us really believe that the only change we're really going to produce is a change which is cosmetic, that we paint over what really is at root our problem. There are other people who try and deny it. There are people who will take their handkerchief to a stain and say, well, that doesn't really exist. You know, I'm sure there must be some solution to get that stain out of my life. And there are other people who say, I'm going to be religious. And they pray about it, and they may be able to cover it over, but eventually, of course, the truth will out. And, of course, there are other people who say, oh, well, no, this guilt complex, you know, it's just a psychological thing that religion has put upon us. No, because there is a real law made by God, and when we break those laws, subconsciously, it registers, and that stain stays. Now, you say, well, up until now, you've said something which is rather depressing. You seem to be suggesting that change cannot ever happen. And I'd like to put it to you that when the change proceeds just from us, then we have to describe it as something which is going to fail. But today, I want to invite you to do something that God has been inviting people to do over more than 2,000 years. And he doesn't do it from a great height and then suggest the impossible. He's not proposing an ideal which no one ever reaches. He is saying to each one of us, make a change. And he's saying, make a change on the inside, not so everyone else can see, not so that you can boast and be religious, but that so you can go to heaven and you can be forgiven. And you know, the wonderful thing is, I may have pointed out that we all suffer from eye disease, but God didn't point from a great height saying, make a change. What God did was he sent his own son down to our level, he put him alongside us, and 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ broke through the barrier of our egoism, of our sin, and he actually forgave us. And it's a free gift. And it's marvelous. And that's why we're here on the street today talking about it, not just because I'm standing in front of some cameras here. And you know, the great thing is that because it's a gift, we can describe it like this, that the change is his. When we invite Jesus Christ in, he comes in to forgive us and to give us a new life. But, you know, when something isn't ours, and it belongs to someone else, then we have to ask them for it. And that's the bit we don't like. That's the offence. Because, you know, we sometimes can admit that maybe we did things wrong and that we shouldn't have done them quite that way. But the fact is that it costs us to say, God, I know you've got a new life for me. I know you've got a pardon, and I know how you paid for it. Could you give it to me, please? And some people say, well, that's all very good, but I've tried turning over a new leaf before. I want to say something else about Jesus Christ. When he died on that cross, 3 days later, he came back to life. He was resurrected. And when he came back to life, he did something which a politician can never do. He actually gave us the power to fulfill his promises. Many people make us promises. Only one is capable of giving us the power to see those promises come true in our life.